All right, in this section, we're going to walk through the steps for using the knowledge we got so far to analyze a model. Okay, so we're going to analyze a market. And as discussed in your textbook, we can kind of see this as in 4 steps. So first we're going to draw the market. Okay, so you draw your supply and demand graph and label an equilibrium, get ready to start. Okay, and then you're going to consider the factor that you're thinking is changing or has changed. And for that factor, you're going to decide, does it affect demand or supply? Okay, so we got to say, well, is it going to affect demand? And so generally, what we're looking at is we're looking at it affecting one or the other. If it's one thing changed, it generally will affect one side or the other. And then for the other side, the effect will be along the curve. It'll end up being a change in the price, causing a change in the quantity demanded or the quantity supplied. And we'll go through that when we get to the examples. And then third, the direction of the shift, right? Is it going to be an increase, which would be to the right, or is it going to be a decrease? Okay, is it going to shift it right or left? And finally, the last step, we find our new equilibrium. We find the new equilibrium. And we compare it to the original one. Okay, so to make sure this is clear, we're going to go ahead and walk through a couple of markets, and we're going to do this for this process for a couple of markets. So the first market, I'm not going to really say what kind of good it is, but let's suppose we have some good that uses inputs that are coming from China. Okay, so it's inputs like components, probably some kind of electronic thing. It's being assembled in the US, but lots of the inputs are coming from China. Okay, so this is our supply and demand graph, and then we'll go ahead and label the equilibrium. And we can label those. I'll do it with a 0 as our starting point for the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity. Okay, so then now we need a scenario. Okay, so this is our scenario number 1, and the start of the scenario is our trade war. Okay, so that's our starting point. So there's a trade war, and the trade war raises tariffs on imports from China, including on, let's suppose, the category of goods that we're using as our inputs for our production. Okay, so this trade war is going to have an effect, and that effect is to raise the price of inputs. Okay, so there we go. So it's going to affect demand or supply. So I think pretty clearly you'll say, oh, it's definitely going to affect supply, because inputs, so the customer doesn't directly care what the price of inputs are. They just care about the final price, but the firm does. The firm, that's going to affect their willingness to supply. And the second thing is, when their inputs go up and it becomes more expensive to make their good, is the firm at a given price, given final price, are they going to be more interested in supplying or less interested in supplying? Okay, so you can probably guess for sure it's going to be less interested. So this raises our production costs, and so it's going to be a decrease in supply. Okay, and so to do this decrease in supply, we go back to we can kind of just pick any point. We don't know exactly how big it's going to be, but we know it's a decrease. So we think at the same price, they're less willing to supply, and then we can draw. Okay, so we get that's our new supply curve, and I label it like this. You can do that, or you could do like a 0 and a 1. It's up to you. And then here's our new equilibrium. Oops. And so we can see that our quantity went down and our price went up. So that's the final, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to raise our price. Our customers aren't going to like that. So the customer is going to end up paying more money. But the second thing that's going to happen is the quantity, oops, I don't need a 1 on that. The equilibrium quantity is going to go down. So not only are the customers going to pay more, but the firms are going to be selling less. Their sales are going to go down. It's going to hurt their business. So we can see that this is the simple model can give us an idea that if you are a firm in this situation where some of your main inputs are coming from a country, that then they increase the taxes on those imports, that this would raise your production costs, lower your supply, and it's actually going to it's going to bite your customers a little bit because your customers are going to pay more money. It's also going to bite you because you're going to sell less. And this would be an example of some simple prediction we could make using this model. One thing to notice here is for the demand curve, it doesn't move. So many students, the mistake they'll make in this problem right here, they would say, well, the price goes up, then demand decreases. Well, that's not demand decreasing, that is quantity demand decreasing. So the price going up and then the consumer want to buy less happens along the demand curve. So that's here. So as the price is going up, because the firms are raising their prices because of this increased cost, the customers are buying less, right? So that's this little yellow arrows here. That's actually happening along the demand curve. So let's go ahead and stop here with scenario 1, and then in a minute I'll come back and do scenario 2.